Hey friends, welcome to another edition of Hoard of the Dragon Queen. Great to have you with me. This is kind of a side quest and not really from the book exactly. I kind of came up with this and I'll tell you why. So in the game, you know, they rescue Lysander and he says, I must ride north to Elaturel and I'll meet you there. So give me a few days and I'm going to ride up and then come up a few days. And he paid for the players to get some horses and stuff, right, to quicken the journey. So he bolts north to Elaturel, and the players kind of get a chance to role play a little bit in town. It was kind of fun, They rescued the little girl Lily, and they role play with her a bit, and they had a big a celebration in the town. The players did bring back some loot for the town to recover a bit. And they're heroes and defended the town, so it gave them a hip hip hooray kind of thing for the heroes, which is they're heroes, so you want to make them when you beat them down, you want to pull them back up. You want to make them feel like heroes because they are heroes, right? So what I did is it's not really that exciting from Elaturel, when you go from Greenest to Elaturel, so I wanted to have an interesting encounter in there, and I kind of came up with this. And this turned out to be pretty spectacular, actually. And it kind of depends on how well the encounter goes. If the monster is able to ambush the party, then it works great. If they fend off the monster, then they can just continue to Elaturel and they had a small encounter. Okay, but my players didn't. So here, let me tell you what happened here. It was very interesting and pretty scary too for one of the players. So let me tell you. So they're riding north to Elaturel, and about halfway through the trip, they had heard from some people in Greenest that there's a monster that stalks the road. Okay, and they didn't know what. Just some fearsome beast, right? Well, they didn't know it was a manicore. So they're riding and in a column down the road, and the warlock is kind of in the back of the group because he's kind of a loner and this kind of thing. So he's in the back of the group. Well, this manicore swoops down, digs his claws into his shoulders, bites into his back, and lifts him out of the saddle, okay? So, he's like dangling, and the manicore does some massive damage to him, flying off. So, of course, the horses smell this manicore, and the horses are terrified of manicores, at least in my world. So the horses are bolting in every direction, right? To get away from this manicore. And all the players are just failing their checks to try to control the horses. And they're just bolting off, everywhere. I think one character manages to control their horse. All the others, they just go everywhere. So, of course, the manicore is just flying off with this poor sap. And he's doing damage every round to this character because he's got his teeth and claws into him, and, the character's, the character finally dies in flight, with the manicore. So he makes the death saving throws, and it's very, death saving throws I think in 5e are very exciting because it gets down to the last roll and he just makes it. He gets one, he fails one, he gets one, he fails one, and so it's the last roll's it. He could die, so he does make the roll. So that's pretty cool. So if like I said, if the manicore didn't nab a character, then the story would kind of end there. They kind of get the manicore to shoot the manicore off, or maybe it hits them later. But anyways, this time in my group, the guy got hit and dragged off, so he dies. Or no, he makes the death saving throw. I'm sorry, but as he's going to the gates of death, he was a warlock and he had this demon patron. And the demon patron grabs him and drags him back from the for the gates of death, and pulls him back, and he comes conscious and he's just barely alive, he's coming in and out of consciousness, barely alive, still in the sky. And then the manicore takes him to this tower, this really high tower, this dilapidated tower, and the floor is crumbled in, it's caved in and all this kind of thing. And there's a small piece that's still attached to the tower, and the manicore drops the warlock on the tower, rips all his clothes off, takes all his stuff, flies it over to another perch on the other side of the tower, and so he's laying there nude, almost dead. The manicore gives him a healing potion, a drop of a healing potion. So it's he's got one hit point, right? This dude's got nothing. He's naked, sitting on this precipice, 50 feet in the air, this kind of thing. So the Manticore is like, all taunting him, and he says, your friends will come by, and then I can feast on their horses and this kind of thing. And because Manticores love to eat horses. So the Manticore says, this tower was, there was an old alchemist here, who was trying to use a philosopher's stone and, turn metals to gold, and, he was cursed, and the tower is cursed, and anyone who uses magic here will be cursed, So like taunting the magic user. So is this true? The warlock doesn't know if this is true or not. So can I use magic? But he doesn't have magic to get down the tower. That's the problem, right? He's just stuck up on this perch. So the players come, riding out in the countryside. They kind of try to follow the Manticore in the sky, and they go, riding out in the countryside on their horses, follow him to this, this hill with a tower on it. Okay, this ruinous tower. So they get close, and they're trying to figure out, how do we get up here? Trying to rescue this poor soul. And the players will search around, and they find this cave. It's this hidden cave entrance, and it turns out to be like a mine entrance, and there's this old mine that's going into under the hill. And basically, as a GM note, they were like mining metals to use for the alchemist stone to turn into gold, right, or the philosopher's stone. So the characters go in this mine, and there's cobwebs everywhere, right? And it's like not a good sign. That's never a good sign. And you go in a cave, and there's like cobwebs everywhere, right? Especially like giant cobwebs. So going in, of course, they run into these giant spiders, and the spiders keep coming, right? they keep crawling out, of these side caves and everything, and the caverns just filling up with spiders. And they're like, oh gosh, we can't fight this. I think we got to get going. So they start running back to the entrance, right? And they look behind them, and the cavern is covered in spiders. There's spiders from head to toe, covering this cavern. And I just put down all these spiders, as kind of a visual thing for this. So they get to the entrance. They're almost to the entrance, and they hear their horses scream in pain, and they're like, oh no. And so they're getting almost to the entrance, and the Manticore like pokes his head out from outside, and they see it, and they're like, oh, what's going on? And the Manticore starts hitting the cavern, or the arch of the cavern, and like causes this cave in just before they get to the exit. So they're like trapped in this cavern, and they look behind them, and like 30 feet back, there's it's floor to ceiling spiders, giant spiders are crawling, and they're like, oh my gosh, and so we cut back to the warlock while they're doing this. And at my table, I don't hide anything from the players. I like it to be like a movie or a TV show that everybody sees what everybody else is doing, even though you may not be able to act on it. So, the warlock, of course, is seeing what's happened with the other player characters, and then he gets his turn. So what he's doing is, he's going to take a chance. Even though the Manticore told him that he could be cursed or something bad would happen to him if he used magic, he's going to try it, right? He's going to try it. So he activates Mage Hand and manages to get his... he gets his robe, at least, the shards of his robe, and he gets his bag that had stuff in it. Well, he had a gaseous form potion in the bag, right? Which is funny because he told me, he said, when I got this gaseous form potion, I'm like, this is the dumbest thing ever. What am I ever going to use this for? Well, in this situation, it was perfect because he just drank the potion, turned into the cloud, and just floated down the tower, I had this whole tower ready for him to go through, they have to go through, and he just bypassed the whole thing. So that's pretty cool. I like when players, do that. Never get it too attached to your material that you can't let somebody bypass it. So he gets down the tower just totally easily. He didn't have to go through the tower or anything, just floats down. So he's floating down, and it's very slow. The gaseous cloud, I think it only moves like 10 or 20 feet around or something. I don't know, it's really slow. So the other players are like, oh no, and they're like pulling rocks, and trying to get out of the cave, and they get a hole just big enough that the halfling can get through. There's a halfling thief. And I'm like, well, I tell the character, I'm like, you could crawl through the hole and leave your companions and make it. And she's like, no, I'm not going to leave my companions. Which was fun, for that moment that, you're thinking, oh, I could save myself, but everybody else is probably going to die, So, but she didn't. That was really cool. She stayed, and they're trying to move rocks, and then the spider swarm is getting closer. You know, they're trying to use spells, blasting it and stuff, trying to stop them, but there's just no stopping this horde, right? So, so one of the characters, a sorceress, notices there's a kind of weak spot in the ceiling, so she blasts the ceiling. You know, it starts to cave in and blocks the spiders. Well, now they're trapped in this this void between the caves. There's dust everywhere. They can barely see. There's not a lot of oxygen in the cave, you know. But they finally dig themselves out. So it was a pretty hairy encounter, for them. So when they get out, they're all dusty and dirty, and they get out, and the warlock's basically just there waiting for them, right? So, but the warlock was interested to see if the tales of this place were true, that maybe there were some alchemist stones or gold or something. So he kind of floats through the cavern in his mist, and he finds like this huge heaping pile of gold. So it was true, the story was true, but how you get it out of here? I mean, the caverns are like infested by hundreds and hundreds of giant spiders. How would you ever get it out of here? So, you know, but he did find this huge hoard of gold under the tower, so that was pretty cool. So he floats out, you know. And in game terms, you know, you can attack mist, but I think unless, you know, someone would have a reason to think it was an intelligent mist or something, I mean, a spider's not going to attack it or anything, right? So he just floats in and out. So when he gets out, they get up, you know, their horses have been killed by the Manicore, you know, ripped up, and he's probably going to be eaten here soon. But they see the Manicore. He kind of dives at him, pissed off, and they're shooting at him and blasting spells. And of course, you know, they have the advantage now that they know what to look for. They know that he's around, right? So, you know, they fend him off because he can't surprise them now. They're ready for this. You know, they're ready for it. So they have to trek back to the road on their feet and everything, but they're ready. And the Manicore, as they go down the road, you know, they have another day of travel. And as they go down the road, you know, the Manicore tries to harass them, but they're ready for it. So, you know, in game terms, I just pretty much let them, you know, fend it off because it can't sneak up on them now, right? They're too prepared. They're watching out for it. They're watching the skies, so to speak. So, you know, and it's hollering obscenities at them, and it's going to get them, and all this kind of stuff, and, you know, of course, staying high enough so they can't kill it, but it couldn't get them either. So that was pretty cool. That was a really, really cool encounter, not in the book, and, you know, anybody feel free to steal this. So I hope you enjoyed this kind of side quest encounter. The next video I'll start off with from Elaturel and, you know, the kind of little small little council there they had, and, you know, moving off, you know, from there. So take care, have fun gaming, and enjoy your Hoard of the Dragon Queen.